Free agency has changed everything. We're day 4? I guess it's the second day of the officially signing guys, but day 4 of free agency is upon us, and most of the big guys have signed. And it was one of the better free agencies the first 3-4 hours that I can remember in a while. Is it you remember one being as hot as that one the first several hours?
Yeah, Fast and Furious. I think there was a few years back they went on strike, or the players got locked out, and they didn't have a traditional free agency period until about like July or something like that. And I remember that one was kind of wild because players had a very short period of time to figure out where the hell they're going, and I heard a good analogy on some, teams only have so much money, and it's kind of like the old cakewalk at school or something, and there's 10 people and there's 9 chairs. So if you don't get a chair, when the music stops playing, then you might be out.
Yeah.
There's also, this is the time, we get into this period where a lot of guys sign 1-year contracts and stuff like that, because they're kind of looking for a team and stuff. But yeah, we can continue on.
Yeah, I always think it's funny that the legal tampering period starts on Monday, but then like Monday at noon, but like Monday at 5 minutes past noon, someone's signing a contract. It's like,
yeah, it was Cousins and Saquon, I thought.
Yeah, it's like, well, so they never talked until noon, and they worked out a contract that quickly. Like,
yeah, that was, especially Cousins has got a coming back from a torn Achilles, and yeah, I don't know. So we all know. And then big boy NFL will step in and want to punish people, or why don't they just get rid of the legal tampering period or whatever they call it, and say, look, free agency starts here, and just cut all the
something different.
Yeah,
but yeah, Cousins is the first guy. We're gonna run through some of these, and if we like it, don't like it. Fantasy football, dynasty, stock up, stock down. Cousins going to the Falcons is the biggest one, because it's a quarterback. And I think, honestly, for Cousins, I don't really see much changing between Minnesota and Atlanta, but it's more for the players in Atlanta, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan, that I think the stock is up. The arrow is pointing up for those players. Would you kind of agree with that, Dad?
Definitely. I was thinking of that earlier, just kind of thinking about, this podcast and thinking like, well, they don't have Jefferson and stuff like that, but they definitely got some players, their numbers, I think their numbers like will probably be, we're talking about the receivers and the tight end and the back. They'll look a little better. Maybe they'll be a little more consistent from week to week and stuff like that. Because the past couple of years, it's been you have a big game and then you don't hear from them for 3 or 4 weeks or something, and then they have another big game. But I think that's going to change.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think Drake London's going to be the biggest beneficiary. Kyle Pitts, it's a tight end. It's always easier to be difference maker at the tight end position with doing less. But I think Drake London, I mean, you look at Kirk Cousins, basically he's been a starter since 2015. And his number one receiver is always putting up pretty good numbers, whether that's Jordan Reed with Washington, Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs there in Minnesota, and obviously Justin Jefferson. So we'll see a big jump from London. It's something we do need to mention. And I think it was actually, the more I thought about it, I thought it was a good move that Minnesota didn't give him all that money. Like, time to move on, figure something else out. He is coming off an Achilles, so we got to monitor that. We just don't know quarterbacks this old. Quarterbacks having Achilles injuries is not very common. And then this old, obviously, we have 2 this year in Cousins and Rodgers to kind of monitor. So, that could be something as well. But yeah, you got to be excited. Obviously, Atlanta, they have 3 top 10 draft picks in the last 3 years at the skill position players, but it didn't matter because they didn't have a quarterback. So we'll see. I think Cousins makes them a contender for the NFC South, and they could always make a run in the playoffs if they get the defense together and the right system for the offense. Russell Wilson to the Steelers was before free agency started, right before Sunday night, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this. Like, it's obviously an upgrade to their quarterback situation last year. I also don't think it's a guarantee he's even on the team because they have nothing invested in him at all. Like, he's not going to be a backup, right? Like, if he doesn't win the job, they're not going to keep him around as a backup. Like, he's not that type of player like that you want as a backup if like Kenny Pickett takes a step forward or whatever. So I don't know. How do you feel about Russell Wilson? Do you think it's okay for the guys, or do you
yeah, I don't know. Pittsburgh, you think of them offensively, you think, is it going to help Najee Harris run the ball? Maybe. I don't know. Is it going to help Pickens? Is he going to catch more passes? Because they got rid of Deontay Johnson. And so, I was looking at their depth chart for receivers, and the other 2 guys, other than Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington and tight end, like who's going to be there, and Pittsburgh is going to, I think, what is it? Arthur Smith is their offensive coordinator. So I don't think for fantasy, I don't think you're going to see a bump up in Russell Wilson compared. Denver got rid of him because Sean Payton didn't want him, but his fantasy numbers last year were not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, They weren't great, but they weren't that bad. So I don't think that's going to change, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to run the ball a lot. Pickens, we'll see who else they bring in. But yeah, he could a slight bump. I don't see a huge increase. I agree with you. I don't see it. And just to go back on what I said, like, I think it's the betting favorite is he's their starting quarterback, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility because, again, they're not investing anything in him that he's, it doesn't work out, doesn't fit the system. Kenny Pickett took strides. We want to roll Kenny Pickett. We don't want you as our backup because you're not going to be a good backup, essentially. So, I agree, though. I don't see a huge increase in production for any of these guys, really. Gardner Minshew signed with the Raiders. Interesting one because they paid him, like, was it 2 years, $25 million?
Yeah, it was
good money. It's like not quite starter money, but it's not. It's a way more than most backups are making. So it's like, as of right now, you have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. My money's on Gardner Minshew being the starter quarterback if they don't make another move in the draft or something. Do you think that's fair? Do you think what percentage do you give that Minshew's the starting quarterback week 1?
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty fair. He's got enough experience and he's played enough, he started enough, and all that other stuff to kind of know what you're going to get. But God, the Raiders, man, that's what you're going to do. I don't know. I mean, that's fine. Again, is Devontae Adams going to be happy? Hey, just a couple of years, he went from Aaron Rodgers to Gardner Minshew. Well, fine. I mean, the guy's, I don't want to knock the guy. It's just he's not terrible, but
yeah, what Minshew should be is a high-end backup who can come in when you're in a pinch because your quarterback's out for a few weeks and your offense doesn't really miss a beat. Minshew's not going to lead a team deep in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen unless this team is just a monster defensively. They did get Wilkins from the Dolphins, and they're pairing him on the defensive line with Max Crosby. So unless this team is just like the 2000 Ravens defensively, which I don't know if any team will ever get back to there, but I think it's good for fantasy in terms of Devontae Adams. You look at Michael Pittman with Minshew, 14, 13, 12, 13, 16, 11 targets. Like, he was getting absolutely fed. So I think for Devontae Adams, it's good. But for the Raiders overall, I don't know what their plan is. Are they going to draft someone? They're in that range in the draft where they could get a Bo Nix or trade up to get a McCarthy, and maybe they sit him for a year and Minshew just is the guy, right? Which is fine. But we need, for long-term future, it's like, man, we want to see something else, I think. But I agree. As of right now, I'd give it like an 80% chance that he's the quarterback, unless we see them make a move in the draft. So a couple other lower-end ones. I mean, Darnold to the Vikings, I wouldn't sleep on that for like dynasty superflex purposes. Like, there's people, some well-respected people in that draft class, that 2018 draft class, that had Darnold as like the clear-cut number one quarterback for that draft class. And if you remember, that involved who was in that draft? Josh Allen was in that draft class, Baker, Lamar, so there were some good quarterbacks. And I don't know. I just think it's interesting because Minnesota, it didn't matter who was the quarterback last year, Mullins, Dobbs, Cousins, they were putting up top 12 fantasy finishes. So I think for fantasy football, it's intriguing potentially if Minnesota doesn't make another move. Darnold could be the starting quarterback for the entire year. And for Superflex Dynasty, that's super important. So any thoughts on Darnold to the Vikings?
Yeah, I don't know. Are we going to see something different? The coach is good, obviously, yes. And that was a good point about the different quarterbacks. Fantasy wise, yeah, I guess I'd be in on Sam Darnold as a dynasty quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't, if he's on a redraft team, I'm kind of crying a little bit, but I don't know if I'm expecting a lot out of it. If I'm a Vikings fan, I'm going, man, what is going on here? But it's time to reset,
like Geno Smith kind of paved a way for these quarterbacks that fail their first time, but get a second chance, So, like I said, he's going to probably the best head coach offensively that he's had. I mean, obviously he was in San Francisco last year, but he didn't start. He's thrown the ball to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, who knows who else. So I don't know. It's not a terrible landing spot if they don't make another move for a year. But yeah, it's interesting to see, what are you doing, Vikings? What are you doing? Aaron Jones, by the way, who's on the Vikings, which we'll talk about. That's a good pass catching guy. And Flacco to the Colts, you wanted me to throw on this list just because Anthony Richardson injury concerns? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think, I heard a interesting fact this morning. Anthony Richardson started 4 games and finished one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we know about the injuries and stuff like that. So that guy's going to have a complete mental makeover on how he plays the game. So,
mm-hmm.
And so the chances of Flacco starting next year, I'd say, are pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you got him in Dynasty on a Dynasty team, which I happen to do, I'm not getting rid of him.
No.
So he's not back to taking kids to the school. He's going to be in an NFL training camp this summer.
Yeah, there's a very good chance we see him for at least a couple games next year.
Yeah.
So hopefully no more than that. We want to see Anthony Richardson, but
yeah, I don't want to
see.
Right, I don't want to see Richardson hurt. I want to see the dude play. But he can't run over guys like he did in college, so that ain't happening.
What do you think Flacco's career earnings are, not including this? I think it was like $8 million. Not that it matters.
I don't know. 125 million.
Not too far off. 175 though, so 50 million more.
Well, Kirk Cousins is going to be over 400 or something.
I know.
My God, it's like, what do you do with all that money?
I know. But yeah, those are the quarterbacks. I mean, there's a couple other ones like backup stuff. Jacoby Brissett went to the Patriots. Interesting if they get a rookie and he's not ready. Could get some games out of Brissett. Jameis Winston on the Browns, Deshaun Watson missed a lot of time last year. Tyrod Taylor on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, old quarterback coming off an Achilles. These are all guys, if you have all three of them, the chances that you get 3-4 starting, again, for Dynasty Superflex is pretty high, in my opinion. Drew Lock on the Giants, Mason Rudolph for the Titans. So Josh Johnson's still around on the Ravens. So, yeah, lots of moves at the quarterback position. And still – Fields is out there, obviously, as a trade chip. Ryan Tannehill is still a free agent. Josh Dobbs, so still a couple players there. The running backs are the big one. We'll actually come back to the running backs. Let's go to the tight end, wide receivers real quick, and tight ends. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. Got a bag, almost $100 million. Oh, man, do you think that's a severe overpay? Do you think he can be better? Are they just trying to surround Will Levis with some weapons and see what they got? Basically?
Yeah, and I think this is just like Christian Kirk a couple of years ago, that everybody blew a gasket. I think he got $70 million from the Jaguars, and he was kind of, he didn't seem like a wide receiver one, but now no one's complaining about it. But Ridley, $92 million. That's wow, that's a lot of money. But there's always funny details in these NFL contracts. So that doesn't necessarily mean the Titans are on the hook. But this will definitely help Will Levis. This will probably, you still got DeAndre Hopkins, and who's the other receiver?
You get Treylon Burks. Who has a edge, but... Well,
yeah, I mean, the three of these guys together will obviously, plus you added Tony Pollard, you got the young running back. Titans are at least, huh?
Yeah, there's some weapons there.
Yeah, at least you got some pieces to compete. I mean,
yeah. You should know after this year if Will Levis is your future.
You should,
it's not a situation like Bryce Young had where Adam Thielen was his best receiver. Like you said, Hopkins, Ridley, Chigakonkwa at tight end, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears are both good receiving backs. And then Treylon Burks, we'll see if he can do something. But, yeah, you should know there. So, yeah, it's an overpay. But, I don't hate it. I don't hate it for Ridley. And, he was definitely looking for some money. Gabe Davis to the Jags. Again, I've been kind of saying for a while now, like, what could possibly be better than the wide receiver 2 for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills the last 2 years? Probably nowhere else. I don't really see this as better. I think it's good for Trevor Lawrence. I think it's good for the Jags. I think it's good if you're a Christian Kirk dynasty manager, because I don't think it really affects Christian Kirk at all. I don't know. For fantasy, though, I don't really see Gabe Davis doing much more than what he's just kind of been. We know what he is, right?
Yeah. Catch every once in a while, get some deep passes, I guess to be that threat for the Jaguars. So, but as far as, are we going to see bigger fantasy numbers? I don't think so, so been wrong before, but, I'm predicting now he'll just be Gabe Davis of what we've seen before.
Yep, I agree. Which is, again, good for Trevor Lawrence, good for the Jags offense, but fantasy in terms of Gabe Davis, not so much. A couple trades here. Jerry Jeudy, I think it was before free agency, got traded to the Browns. I think there's still slight hope for Jerry Jeudy. Former first-round pick, was considered the best receiver in the draft. Did have almost 1,000-yard season one year with the Broncos. I don't think he's completely dead. I think it's much better for Deshaun Watson than anything else. Now you're throwing the ball to Amari Cooper, David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy. Elijah Moore is your wide receiver 3. So there's some good options for Watson, and I don't hate it for the Browns.
I wonder if you're Elijah Moore, what's going through your head?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what about me? But
he had his chance. No one did less with more targets than Elijah Moore. Off the top of your head, he didn't have a great year. He had 640 yards. How many targets do you think he had last
50?
year? No, he had 104.
Elijah Moore had 104 targets.
Yeah, 60 catches.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. It just wasn't clicking. So
yeah. Something's not right. That Jets dumped him too.
Yeah. Do you think it negatively affects Amari Cooper or David Njoku, or do you think those guys are going to get theirs?
No, I think
it kind of depends on Deshaun Watson and what he is.
No, but just based upon what you just told me about Elijah Moore, the Browns say, hey, we need a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. And I, off the top of my head, I say Jerry Jeudy is probably going to provide that. But his fantasy numbers, is it going to look any different than it did in Denver? I don't think so.
If Deshaun Watson gets back to what he was in Houston, which he was a 5,000-yard passer. Almost 5,000. He had 4,800 yards one year. That's huge numbers. He led the league in passing. 4,800 yards is no joke. Not a lot of quarterbacks. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has ever thrown for 4,800 yards in his career in one season. So it's no joke to get that much. So if he gets back to that, and they want to prove that they made the right choice in Deshaun Watson. So I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think there's a chance for both the Cooper, Njoku, and Jerry Jeudy to all be relevant for fantasy, but it's going to depend on Watson. So, and then Deontay Johnson, kind of a random one. Deontay Johnson to the Panthers. Do you think he's the best receiver on that team over Adam Thielen and Mingo?
Yeah, I would say I'd say so. Not by much, but
yeah.
There's probably more to see from the Panthers on draft night or something like that, I would think, but
probably, but they don't have a first round pick. Obviously they have the first pick of round 2. Yeah, I think it's good. Deontay, I kind of like it for Deontay. I like it for Bryce Young, get him a weapon. I think they do bring someone else in. So, and then tight ends, I don't know, not a whole, Gerald Everett to the Bears, but Cole Kmet's there. Colby Parkinson to the Rams. Is he the starter while Higbee's recovering from his injury? Mike Gesicki to the Bengals. Interesting, I guess, but maybe not. Johnny Smith to the Dolphins. Any of those for fantasy purposes you're interested in, or who are you interested in the most for fantasy there?
Yeah, I don't know. While we're talking, I see Hayden Hurst might go to the Chargers. I'm not sure. And why is that significant? Because Jim Harbaugh has proven with the 49ers, even with Stanford when he was the coach, in the University of Michigan, he uses tight ends. So I just throw his name. The rest of these guys, I don't see a significant Dolphins. Jonnu Smith with the Dolphins, they've proven they had Gesicki. So I mean, I think Gesicki to the Bengals is probably the most it just moves the fantasy meter like one little tick there. So the rest of the guys, no, I don't see a big thing here.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, Colby Parkinson, if he's the starter for the Rams, I think he'll put up similar numbers to Higbee, like in that offense, but it's going to depend on what Higbee's doing. I'm thinking more for dynasty than anything. Yeah, the Hayden Hurst to the Chargers is interesting because they also signed Will Dissly, another tight end.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I wonder if that rules out essentially like a Brock Bowers at 5 for them. I don't know. So I don't know. That's for later on. The big one stuff here is the running backs. Lots of running back signings. Saquon Barkley is the big one to the Eagles. He's dead to Tiki Barber apparently, which is kind of weird. But I really like this. Yeah. I know a lot of people are going to be a little nervous about Jalen Hurts steals touchdowns and they don't throw to their running backs, right? Which is fair, especially the Jalen Hurts touchdown thing, because if they do get to the one, they're doing the tush push for sure. But they paid him, I think, up to $15 million a year. They're not going to use him like they used DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders. I think they're gonna make him kind of the centerpiece of the offense. Take less off of Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, give Saquon the ball a lot. I think he could be to what CMC is to the 49ers. I think we could be talking about Saquon, rumors of MVP votes and stuff like that. I think he could be that good. I don't know if you feel the same, Dad.
Yeah, I feel that too, that he's going to get the ball. And, and they're going to, Hurts, there's always, the last 2 years we've had, we know the Super Bowl year, and then last year, we were talking about Hurts is hurt, Yeah. Last year it was kind of a rumor. Is he hurt? He doesn't look the same. The team sucks. They really kind of went down the toilet there. So, I think Saquon is going to be the centerpiece,
So, yeah. And he's going to rush for 1,300 yards with that team.
Absolutely.
Hopefully they have a little bit of a philosophy change and throw him the ball a little bit more. So I think he could just be, it really does remind me of CMC, like a really good running back.
Yeah, they threw to Swift a little bit last year, more than the year before to Miles Sanders. So,
yeah, it was still they were pretty low in terms of targets to running backs. So I'm hoping he gets 50 plus catches instead of 35 or 40. So yeah, I just think it just reminds me of CMC, a really good running back on a crappy team forever, a couple injury years as well, and finally gets to a good team. But we'll see. There's still, Eagles had a meltdown, and the reason for the meltdown are kind of still there, I guess. That's not necessarily fixed. So we'll see about that. A super surprising one, Josh Jacobs to the Packers. Didn't expect that one. Then they released Aaron Jones. If you knew Aaron Jones is going to be healthy all of next year, who would you take? Jacob, just in a vacuum, Jacobs or Aaron Jones? Not like Aaron Jones on the Vikings. Just in terms of 1 year in 2024, who would you rather have?
I don't know. There's always other reasons. It's not performance. Remember last year they gave him a pay cut, and supposedly they were talking to him this year. We're talking about Aaron Jones, and supposedly this year they were talking to him about his a pay cut, and he said, "Nah, I ain't doing it." So we don't know what those numbers are. And Aaron Jones, near the end of the year in the playoffs, that guy was really good. So he was still very significant on the Packers. So the Packers are they're moving on. He's been there for a while. The financial, whatever part of it, yeah. It's just see you later, pal.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see with Josh Jacobs. Last year, efficiency-wise, wasn't great for him. He still did average 85 total yards a game, but he had over 2,000 total yards in 2022. He was on pace for less than 1,450 last year. So a big dip, and they were giving him the ball. He had 233 carries in 13 games. He had 37 catches. So he was getting the ball. It wasn't that, but we'll see. I mean, this is an up and coming offense, so it's exciting for the Packers. Yeah, I like it for Jacobs. I don't know. I think I would have liked going back to the Raiders more. I think they're just going to run the hell out of the ball, and that would have been perfect for Jacobs. But I still think he's pretty easily a top 10 running back this year if he stays healthy in fantasy. So, and he got a contract. For dynasty managers, you always like big contracts. Like, all right, at least I know where he's going to be the next 2 years, right? And they're invested in him, and they're probably going to feed him over the next 2 years. And he's still only 26 years old. So, Derrick Henry to the Ravens, which was kind of seemed like a pretty easy prediction there. What do you think about Henry to the Ravens? Do you think he's going to lead the league in rushing or be top 3 again with the Ravens?
Yeah. We know Derrick Henry's going to be 30 years old, or he is. So we know all about all the carries and everything else. So I think we'll see the same version of Derrick Henry than we seen last year with the Titans. I'm not sure there's going to be a huge bump up in numbers and things like that. I think Derrick Henry had a lot of didn't he have a lot of touchdowns? Was it last year?
He had 12.
Yeah, so I think that's what it. Don't forget Lamar, but that's what I think on Derrick Henry. I'm not sure. Did they keep Justice Hill? Did they, is Dobbins? I don't know. Dobbins has had 2 major leg injuries, so. But the Ravens have always ran a couple of backs, so obviously Derrick Henry will be 1A, and the other guy might be a little bit behind him. Kind of like Gus Edwards and Justice Hill last year.
Yeah, I like it for Henry because he's going to a team that should be good at running the ball, but they don't pass to the running backs a lot. But Henry has never really relied on his pass catching to support him in fantasy. His career high in catches is 33, but his big years there, he was catching less than 20 passes a game. But he wasn't really doing anything in the passing game. So I like that for him. I think they're going to use him. Like, why not? Like, he's 30 years old. He just turned 30. Like, you're not saving him for anything. Just run the hell out of him, man. Like, put him in there, run him. Obviously they want to save him. They have playoff aspirations and stuff, but I could see one last big year for Henry. If he rushes, let's say for 1,500 yards and scores 10 touchdowns, that would put him at 11,000 rushing yards and 100 rushing touchdowns.
Wow.
Is that a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Had 2,000 yards, offensive player of the year.
Aren't we waiting for Frank Gore to get in?
Is he eligible yet? He played forever.
Yeah, he did. So I don't know, but those are for running back in today's game. Derrick Henry, if he gets that, 11,000 yards, 100 touchdowns. Yeah, he would. Yeah. I'd say he's a Hall of Fame running back.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people with 100 touchdowns in their career. It's pretty limited. Looks like there's 26-ish, about 30 players with 100 touchdowns.
Antonio Gates, and he didn't get voted in the Hall of Fame, so
yeah,
he punked him out.
But, by the way, Frank Gore's eligibility is 2026, so he last played in 2020. But yeah, I like Henry on the Ravens. I think that's an awesome spot and just kind of fits that division too. AFC North smash mouth kind of football, bad weather, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, right? Cincinnati. So I like that. Tony Pollard to the Titans was maybe not one we were seeing. I was kind of telling people, like, not that I don't like Tajay Spears, but I still think Tajay Spears would be interesting to see how they use them. They paid Pollard a decent amount of money, $8 million a year. They're both very similar kind of players, pass catchers, maybe shouldn't be carrying the ball more than 15 times a game over a course of a season. I don't know. Do you think he is the clear-cut number one? Do you think it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation? What do you think with this?
Yeah, that's going to be tough to call, because I heard comments from the Titans general manager talking about Spears. I think it was during the combine, saying, yeah, he's the man, or something like that, or he's all that we expect him, and all that, or something along those lines. And so, boy, I don't know. It's going to be something to watch. But
it is. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
The thing that, and the reason why I was saying, like, maybe in Dynasty, maybe trade high in Tajay Spears is basically because a new coach is coming in. Now, same general manager, but new coach. And we saw it with, like, D'Amico Ryans going to Houston, and Dameon Pierce became nothing. It just, maybe he doesn't fit their system that they want to run. Brian Callahan, he's coming from Cincinnati, and his 5 years as the offensive coordinator of Cincinnati, he had Mixon there. Mixon was healthy basically 4 of those 5 years. He was a top 12 running back every year that he was healthy, 4 or 5 years. He averaged about 17 carries and 3 catches a game. And they didn't really have another run. They had other running backs in there, like third down backs, but they didn't have anyone splitting carries, really. It was kind of all mixing. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Pollard is going to be at worst, the 1A. And maybe just the main guy, and Tajay Spears is, comes in and third down guy. So, depends on if they think Pollard can hold up for an entire year, getting 230 carries or something. So, Eckler to the Commanders is kind of gross. I don't know. Like, it seems like he replaced Antonio.
Well, we got to have a mind shift on the Commanders, because we haven't seen it yet. Yeah, we know no new ownership. They got new everything there. So we're thinking in the past. I think the same thing. I thought, when I heard it, I just said, why? But he's, this isn't going to be Austin Eckler of 2022. Last year we know he had some injury problems, but there was about a 2 or 3 year period before that. Austin Eckler was probably one of the best goal line backs, in his touchdown production. I don't know. Is he going to be 1,000 yards? No.
He's never rushed for 1,000.
I don't think so. But
he's never rushed for 1,000.
He's never. I thought he has at least once, but it doesn't matter.
900. He's 1,500, 1,600 total yards.
Right.
All right, so over under, let's say he plays 17 games. Over under 150 carries this year. That is just under 9 carries a game.
I'd say under.
Okay. So we're looking at, he's going to need to be efficient. Let's just say he averages 4 yards a carry, gets, let's just say 150 yards. That's 600 yards rushing. So he's going to need 50 catches, 400 or 500 yards, which is pretty easy. I can see that easily for him. I've been kind of telling people, like, I don't mind buying low on Eckler. Obviously, you're not going to get the 1,600 total yards and 20 touchdowns. That's not going to happen. But can you get 1,100 total yards with 50 catches and 8 touchdowns? Yeah, you can do that. That's pretty good. Like, it's not great numbers, but that's solid. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Is it Brian Robinson between the tackles, and Eckler's kind of the third down guy? So,
and that's what I see. Yep.
Yeah, seems like it. DeAndre Swift to the Bears. It's another interesting one. I think he's kind of sucks if you were in on Roshan like I was. I still don't think he's worthless, but I don't know. Is DeAndre Swift kind of the clear-cut best running back on that team now?
Well, yeah. There's another guy too, though. There's
Khalil
three
Herbert,
of them.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. But Swift definitely he definitely fits. He's the clear-cut number one running back for the Bears. So I guess it's kind of funny, you let David Montgomery go last year.
I know.
Then you end up with the guy that he replaced. So, I was thinking about that. Why didn't you just pay Montgomery? It wasn't an exorbitant amount of money, but I'm sure David Montgomery wanted out of Chicago too. But anyway, Swift. We haven't seen much out of Bear running back production. It's kind of been this, this guy this week, this guy next week, and who's coming down the line and all this other stuff. Kind of just the revolving door. So maybe this will add a little stability to it.
Yeah, and man, if Swift gets just a full work, like if he gets a full workload, guy could be really good. Like he's averaged over 4.5 yards per carry, yards per attempt 3 out of his 4 years. One of them was 5.5. He's averaged about 50 catches a year. Last year, a lot of it was, he had over 1,250 total yards. He had 40 catches. He got tackled at the one like several times, and those all turned into Jalen Hurts touchdowns. So, man, if someone gives him kind of what he did last year, 230, 240 carries, and maybe 15 more catches, and he gets 5 more touchdowns, we're talking about DeAndre Swift as a top 12 running back. So
I agree.
I think Khalil Herbert is the one that gets hurt the most here, just because I think Swift kind of makes him redundant a little bit. I think Roshan still brings a little bit of difference. He has a different skill set to the table. His size, his ability to block, his catching ability, his pass catching, which obviously Swift can do. I think it's Swift and then Roshan, and then Herbert is the one. Khalil Herbert is the one that gets really hurt here, in my opinion. Devin Singletary to the Giants, replacing Saquon Barkley. Right now, this is pretty nice if you have Singletary in Dynasty, because I don't know what the contract he signed. Looks like a 3-year, $16 million. That's pretty good money, like over $5 million a year for a running back. Like they might, and he reunites with Daboll, their time in Buffalo, Singletary and Daboll. So do you think Singletary is going to be like their lead guy?
No. I think they're going to draft somebody, So, that's, Devin Singletary, I think he'll be used like he was in Buffalo and Houston. Those are always, I know his years in Buffalo, he was always between 800 and 900 yards and stuff like that. In Houston, he didn't, they didn't discover that, he was worth a shit until about halfway through the season, and then they go, wow, this guy's pretty good. It's like, yeah, put Pierce down and Singletary in. I don't know how many yards he ended up with, but that's what I think that Singletary will be.
Man, it's just, I look at when they did start giving him the ball in Houston, basically week 9 on, he was averaging 86 total yards a game, 71 rushing, 15 receiving. That's 1,500 yards over an entire season.
That's pretty good.
And weeks 9 to 18 is half. It's not like a 3-game sample size. That's half the season. So it's always been like that with Singletary. If someone gives him the full workload, he's going to be good. And no one's ever, he just was over 200 carries last year. That was the first time in his career. Fun fact on him though, he has led his team in rushing 5 straight years. Every year he's been in the league.
Wow.
He's led his team in rushing. I don't know how many running backs you can say that for.
Yeah, he's with the right coach, so
yeah.
I mean, he's with the right guy. I mean, Daboll wouldn't want him if he was a scrub or if he was no good or he doesn't fit or something like that. So yeah, I guess I can see, a career year from Devin Singletary.
Yeah, and again, like over $5 million a year, that's not chump change for a running back. Like Pollard's getting $8 million a year. Like it's not like a huge difference. It's a difference, but it's not like, I don't know. I see something there. Gus Edwards with the Chargers reunites with Greg Roman. Goes Harbaugh to Harbaugh. They're going to run the ball like every year that Harbaugh. Yep. Every Harbaugh team in the NFL, every Greg Roman team in the NFL has been like top 5 in rush attempts. So Gus Edwards is going to get his. If they're going to run the ball 30 times a game, Gus Edwards is probably going to get 12 to 15 of those,
Gus Edwards, prediction here, Gus Edwards is going to have double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, he did last year, and you add the double-digit touchdowns with, let's just say, 13 carries a game. That's 220 carries. He's always average. You look at his yards per attempt. His career is 4.9.
Yeah, I looked at that the other day. So
yeah, he's average over 5. Now again, he was with Baltimore. You have to worry about Lamar. Is that going to be the case here? But it's under Greg Roman and his run scheme. So he averaged over 5 yards an attempt his first 4 years. So I could see 1,000 yards, and if he's going to get double-digit touchdowns, they're going to bring someone else in, but it's really not going to matter.
Right.
Like, he's still going to get his. So, yeah, I like it if you're a Gus Edwards dynasty guy. Like that, his value goes up, in my opinion. Zach Moss of the Bengals is now interesting because Mixon's no longer on the team. They cut him, brought in Zach Moss for cheaper. Like, they just showed their hand. Why would they?
Chase Brown.
Yeah, Chase Brown's there, and I like Chase Brown, but like, they kind of showed their hand. I think Chase Brown and Zach Moss are their 2 running backs heading into the season because why would you? There's no point in draft, I guess, money-wise, but like, why would you spend high capital draft pick on a running back when you just had one who could take the load, So I think this is their two they're going in with. So again, that's good for Zach Moss. We saw what he was going to do, or what he did in Houston, or sorry, in Indianapolis when he took over. So
yeah, he looked good. He was
for sure. Gibson to the Patriots. Any excitement there?
No, let me yawn. Oh. Yeah.
I kind of liked Gibson. Like, if he can get to if he goes to the Chiefs and he becomes the Jerick McKinnon there, I like it.
Yeah, I like him as a player. He just, I don't know. Patriots. They're a team. We don't know the direction yet for that team. So,
like you said with Washington, we got to look at them different. We got to look at the Patriots differently too, because it's not Bill Belichick anymore. So.
Right.
And then Joe Mixon got cut, went to the Texans. I love this for Mixon.
I think it's good.
I mean, look at what they did with Singletary. Like, Mixon, if he gets volume, he's going to be a top 12 running back. So I think he's going to get the volume. Why not? Run him. Like,
yep.
I love it. He's good offense, going to have a lot of touchdown opportunities, can catch the ball. Mixon has had over 40. He had 60 and 52 catches the last 2 years. So I think it's really good for him. And then Aaron Jones on the Vikings, I think, is a good spot too. Like, it's kind of the perfect spot because the Vikings throw the ball more than anyone in the NFL, 70% of the time. So that's perfect for Aaron Jones. He's a very talented pass catcher. Maybe runs the ball 10 to 12 times a game and catches 3-4 passes. And he's explosive. So do you like what do you like more, Mixon on the Texans or Aaron Jones on the Vikings?
I think I like Mixon a little better.
Yeah. I kind of agree, but I like Aaron Jones on on the Vikings. Like I think, I think he could easily get to 60 plus catches with them. So especially with Hawkinson out, maybe the first 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot left in terms of fantasy relevant. I mean, Marquise Brown's still out there, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, guys like that, but not really much else. J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Clyde. Any predictions on Justin Fields? I know he's not a free agent, but
yeah, I don't know. I guess I guess I can see him hold on to him and take him into training camp and I hear that the baloney about it'll ruin the locker room and blah blah blah. I don't know if I believe that, but the other players they just want to win. So, and if the new guy comes in and helps them win and they play better and stuff like that, and look and also with Justin Fields, just look at how many quarterbacks started in the NFL last year. So he's gonna end up somewhere. Somebody's gonna say, "Well, I want him." They'll trade for him. We have some ideas on where he should go. I think maybe he could end up in Seattle or Minnesota, or I don't know. Chicago to Minnesota, that interdivision stuff. That gets.
They're not doing that. I wish they weren't in the same division because I kind of like that. Fields to the Vikings. I just don't see the Bears trading Justin Fields to the Vikings, like same division. So I don't know. It could be a situation like you said, the locker room stuff. Look at what happened when the 49ers drafted Trey Lance and replaced, tried to replace Garoppolo with them. It was like, and then Garoppolo to Purdy, like no one cared once they started winning.
That's correct. Yep.
All they care about. Yeah, hopefully he gets to a good spot. I still like Justin Fields, but all right. Well, we'll finish there. It probably won't be talking too much about any more free agents unless there's big trades, which is free agents. But it was a fun couple days there, and now it's basically eyes on the draft. So that's what we're looking at over the next month and a half or so. So we will catch you guys then with some more Dynasty stuff in the off season.